So while I was finishing up another project this morning, I thought it would be fun to fire up the CNC and cut out a Spirograph for a router, and the results are pretty cool. So I cut a large gear and a small gear out of MDF, and I put trackpad on the back of them. And this is going to do two things. First of all, it's going to help me hold it in place, and secondly, and probably more importantly, it's going to get it off the surface of the material so the wood chips from the router have a place to go and won't get caught up in the gears. And I made the smaller interior gears out of 3/4 inch plywood. That way when I put a router on it, it wouldn't catch on the outside gear. And of course I'm going to test it. And the results were actually pretty cool. I made a round interior gear and kind of a triangular shaped interior gear. Now after testing it with a carpenter's pencil, I put a 60-degree V-groove bit, this one right here, in my router. And then added a plate to the router that I could put a bushing in, and that's what's going to ride along the hole in the smaller gears. Then adjusted my router so it would just stick through just a really small amount. I didn't want much sticking out. I found this was a little trickier than I had originally thought it would be, and that the really sharp square edges on the teeth needed to be knocked down because they were catching and it made the router skip, or the gear skip inside of the larger one. So I took them over to the belt sander and just knocked off the edges, made them a little bit more round, and that fixed the problem. That made it a lot easier. Next thing I did was grab a big chunk of wood and use my big gear to try an idea I had to see if it would work out, and it was pretty cool. I was so happy with the way this turned out. It looked really cool, so I decided I wanted to use this for a project, and the project I had in mind is kind of a Tuscan flavor project, and the finish turned out awful. So I was going kind of like a rustic theme, and it just didn't work really well, so I got as much finish off as I could, and I decided I wanted to beat the top up a little bit to make it look a little more worn. So the way this works is, the more you drag it, the more rustic it looks. And if you only drag it for 10 feet, it only looks a little rustic. If you drag it for a mile, it looks a lot rustic. That'll do. So after stressing out the top, I gave it a sanding and picked out any of the rocks that were on it, and just threw a coat of early American Minwax on top and a coat of red chestnut around the band, and it looks pretty good now. Now, beat-up looking rustic furniture isn't for everyone, but for me personally, I love it, and the spiral in this top just makes it so much better. Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. Now, I know not everyone has a CNC, so don't forget to subscribe, because very shortly I'll be doing a video on how you can do this with nothing more than a router and a drill. It's all you need to make this very cool system right here. I'd like to thank FastCap for sponsoring today's video, and as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Man, that looks good.